people today. They could spend half their lives over 50. That's a lot of living. So it helps to have a wise friend and fierce defender in your corner. A friend like AARP. So your health lives longer.
This is just slow-mo karate?
Just slow-mo karate.
Your money lives longer.
I just bought that.
I just sold that.
And your happiness lives longer. That's why the younger you are, the more you need AARP. Join today.
Welcome to AARP Illinois' virtual event. It's so wonderful to have you with us. AARP is on a mission to connect with individuals across various communities, especially those aged 50 and above. We're here to listen, understand, and address the unique needs of you and your community as we age. Our goal is to enrich your experience by expanding our local activities, providing opportunities for you to discover and engage with all that life has to offer right here in your own community and virtually. As we journey through today's event, we invite you to consider joining our dedicated team of AARP volunteers. It's a chance to make a meaningful impact and help us better serve those 50 plus across the nation. Connect with us and be a part of this vibrant movement toward positive change. Welcome, and let's make this event both fun and transformative.
Hello everybody out there in AARP world. Welcome to my crafty corner. I'm Allie. I'm coming to you from Morton, Illinois, and today I'm going to be teaching you some awesome crafts that you can use some old dusty frames that have been sitting around your house to spruce them up and maybe regift them for the holidays. Alright, for our first craft today, we are going to be working with some fabric and an old frame. This fabric I just found laying around. It's perfect because we're here in the dog barkery. So once you have your fabric, you need to find your frame and then maybe some sandpaper, and that's all you'll need for the first one, along with some Mod Podge. On to the next one. We used a simple grocery store napkin to turn this frame into something much more exciting. And then for our last one, we're going to be using craft paper to turn this simple frame into something that can spruce up the vibes of your living room. All right, now let's get straight into our first one. Like I said, the things you're going to need is you're going to need your frame. You're going to need a filler paper of some sort that goes around your picture inside, or you can do this on simply just your frame. It's up to you. You need some fabric, some Mod Podge, and some scissors. All right, my first step I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to take off my fabric because I don't want to get anything on that while I'm working. I'm going to find which side's the front. Typically, it's going to be the prettier side. And I'm just going to go through and I'm just going to apply not too thick, but definitely not too thin of a coat of Mod Podge. When you're doing this, you're going to want to make sure that you get all of those sides and corners really good. Otherwise, your fabric will most likely start to lift. And of course, if this takes you a little bit, just make sure that if any sides start to dry, you go back and make sure that they're well smothered and covered, because you don't want anything lifting on your frame. Don't mind that dog hair in there. We love our furry friends here. And speaking of furry friends, you can choose any fabric that would go along with your dog, and it's an awesome gift to give for the holidays. All right, now that we have that covered, I'm going to take my fabric and I'm going to lay it face down. I've pre-cut the fabric to go at least 1.5 inches above the frame so that you have room to fold it over when you're done. Now, I'm going to take this and I'm going to stick it right down. Actually, first, I'm going to give it a spray of water. Just light spritz. This will help to take out some of those wrinkles. See that? Smoother than ever. Now, we're going to go back and we're going to set that right there. You want to make sure that it doesn't need to be even, but that you have some extra fabric poking along all the sides. Now, we're going to get that secure and we'll be right back. All right, now that you have your frame, your paper frame glued down to your fabric, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that your fabric doesn't fold past this line. If it does, just like this side, you're just going to want to cut about half of it off. You just want enough that you can get it securely stuck onto that frame. Okay, now that all of your sides shouldn't stick past the inside. What you're going to do is you're going to cut each corner to corner. You want to cut it as close as you can, and you can even rip it if you get too close and you don't want to cut that frame. What this is going to do is it's going to make this easier for you to fold it in without having any wrinkles or bumps. Okay, now that you have that cut, I'm actually going to make sure that all of these will fold nicely down, like so, like that. And now I'm going to cut a tiny sliver in the middle. All you're going to do is just push your finger through a little bit, and you can push your scissors through. Now, if you can't do that, you can always get a little X-Acto knife. I don't know where one is right now. But this is definitely going to take a little bit of elbow. All right, now I got that hole cut. It took me a little second and some struggle busting, but we got there. I'm going to cut it a little wrong. You're going to cut from corner to corner. Don't do what I did. Make sure you watch before you jump in like me. And you're just going to cut an X down the center. Just like on the outside, this is going to make it easy to fold in so that you have those smooth edges. Okay, now that you have all your cuts, you're going to do the same thing and make sure that it all lines up how you'd like it to. And then we're going to get to gluing. We're going to dip back into that Mod Podge, and we're going to start by going from side to side. I don't like to do all my sides first because it will start to dry before I can get it to stick. Now, once you have that applied, you're just going to smooth it down. Now with these folded edges, sometimes it does have a little bit of trouble sticking because it's so much smaller than the rest of this. Another thing besides the Mod Podge that we use is we use this Elmer's Bond, and it creates an extra stickiness on top of that Mod Podge. Move right over here so that we don't get any of that stuff on our good frame. Now, I'm just going to want to stick that down there and just spray a little spray like that. You're going to fold it over and you're going to stick it down. See? Look at that. Very clean. And I'm going to do the same thing over here now that that side's still wet. And if you look at that, I forgot to cut that. So I can always just cut that in the end, but I'm actually just going to lift it, do a little snip, and good as new. Nobody even has to know. I'm going to add a little bit more Mod Podge on top of that extra sticky glue. And boom. Very well. Okay. Now, you see all these little corners that I forgot to cut? I'm going to just give them an extra little trim now to make sure that we don't have anything sticking up after we're done. I like to just follow the cutouts of the other triangles around it. Okay, let's give this side a nice spray. Look at that. This is already going to look awesome. I can tell you that much. And remember, if you don't get all the cutting done at first, it's no big deal. Mistakes will happen, and it's just as easy to fix. Okay, now we're in the final stretch. I'm going to cut this corner again, and I'm just going to kind of follow that diagonal line that that other cut had made for me. Give it a little spritz. A nice fold. You could come up with a nice song to go along with all your steps of working here. All right, now that last corner, it shows us where we need to cut. And then we're going to give the last spritz. Down she goes. I'm feeling pretty klutzy today, obviously. Okay. Now, once all that's secure, I'm going to go ahead and put a little Mod Podge on top to make sure that it can all stay down nicely and sealed. And voila! There you have your inside to your frame. Look how cute that looks. Even after the back looks a little disastrous, that's okay. The front still looks wrinkle-proof and perfect. All right, for our next part of this frame, I'm gonna get this classic frame and some sandpaper. This is gonna add to the rustic look of our frame. So what you're gonna wanna do is you're just gonna kinda wanna sand along some of those edges. It's gonna kinda take some of the paint off, and that's gonna give it that rustic, worn look. You see that? It's got some of those scratches coming through. And one thing I like to say is that if you paint first on top of this color and you start sanding, some of that green will actually come through the color that you painted, and it will look like an even cooler rustic look. All right, now if you look at that, it's got that old rustic look to it now, and it doesn't have to be so clean. Now, I'm gonna show you what our insert is gonna look like inside of this. Take out that nice stock photo. And I'm gonna plug that right in there. Oh, look at that, it's a perfect fit. Okay, now I'm gonna find those little pegs. Now look at that. You have a perfect spruced up frame that is perfect to give for a gift of the holidays. If you wanted to add a picture of your dog, your family, Santa with your kids, anything would work because it's a perfect gift to give for the holidays. All right, let's show you the next way that you can spruce up a basic frame around your house. All right, now that we have our custom fabric frame inside of this frame and we've roughed it up a little bit to give it that rustic vibey look, we now have this beautiful customized frame that you can add any picture that you'd like into and give us the perfect gift for the holidays. I personally love how this turned out, and I can't wait to put a picture of my dog in it. All right, let's move on to the next one. I'm gonna be showing you how to make this awesome, simple, decorative frame using just a napkin and some Mod Podge. Instead of doing the inside of this frame, I'm going to take it out and I'm going to go ahead and do the outside so I can show you. Wait, was that not? Do you want to just? All right, now that we have our first project finished, I'm going to be showing you how to take a simple grocery store decorative napkin and turn it into something beautiful like this. But instead of doing the inside filler like we did with the fabric, I'm going to be showing you how to do the outside. Okay. This is going to be very similar to our first process. You're going to want to get your napkin, place it upside down, and with the same as before, we're going to want to spritz it with a little bit of water. Not too much, otherwise it's not going to look too good, because this is going to help get all of those nice wrinkles out. I'm going to try and get them out as best as I can, but I don't want to risk ripping it, so I'm going to leave it as it is right now. Once you have your frame, you're going to want to make sure that it fits within the napkin and that you know where you want to put it. And then you're going to want to get some of your Mod Podge or your adhesive spray, and you're just going to want to do the same thing as before, and you're going to want to line that frame. You're going to want to get all the edges so you can make sure that everything sticks nice and neat. And while you're doing this, like I said before, you're going to want to make sure that none of this dries, because then spots of your napkin aren't going to stick. If any corners start lifting when you've put your napkin down, you can always just lift them up and just put a little bit of Mod Podge under or over it. Okay, now that we've got basically our whole frame covered, we're going to set it upside down, and we're going to put it right on that frame, or right on that napkin. You're going to want to put it where you want the design to be, so that whatever you want to show up on your frame shows up. If you're going to use a napkin like this, it's not the best idea to do it with a frame this thin. You're going to want to do it with a bigger, thicker frame, or something that has a writing portion on the bottom, because you could end up cutting half this snowman's face off, and I don't think you'd really get the picture. All right. Now, just like we did before, we're going to make sure that this doesn't fold past those nice little lines. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to cut a little bit off. And I'm going to measure it. Might even need to cut a little bit more. And you don't have to just do this with Christmas napkins. You can do this with any napkin that you can find. Cut a little bit off of this side, and then I think we should be good. Oh. And if scissors are a little harder for you to use, you can also use an X-Acto knife. Just be careful not to cut yourself and make sure you're being safe. Okay, now just like with that last one, I'm going to cut corner to corner. And I like to actually cut my little hole in the center before I glue all my sides down, so that I can make sure that if I snag anything, it doesn't mess up the outside. Alright, now I'm going to get that Mod Podge again. And you're going to want to do the same thing. With a frame, you're going to want to make sure that you get your sides, because that's just as important as they stick. And I like to do one side at a time. That way I can make sure it's all pressed in where it needs to be. Look at that. Alrighty. And with that other one, just like with that other one, we're going to cut the corners right where they match up, so that you don't have any hangies. You're done. Alright. Again, make sure you get your sides really well, because you want to make sure that you don't have any bubbles or that anything doesn't lift. And then you're going to want to just do the same thing. Pull it up tight to make sure you get it stuck to that side good first. And then just go ahead and fold it over. And repeat. Now the reason I didn't cut the inside and do it at the same time like I did the last one is because I like with the napkin to make sure that it all gets a good amount of Mod Podge applied on top of it, so that we can make sure that it stays down. Because the napkin is much less sturdy than our fabric is going to be. Now for the last time, I'm going to cut those corners again. Oh, we must have forgot one. There we go. Nice little refill of that Mod Podge there, thank you. Alrighty. And now, I'm just going to fold that last corner up, make sure everything's tucked in. Now I'm just going to press it down. Now, for that side, we're good. Now we need to do the inside. You're going to do the same thing as before, and you're just going to want to cut a big X to each corner. And this time, you can actually just go ahead and cut part of that off so that you don't have to worry about it later. Now all this X is doing is it's just making it easier that we get good even folds when we fold it up to the corner. Otherwise, we'll get those bubbles, or it will just not stick very well. Okay, now same as before. You're just gonna wanna take some of your Mod Podge, make sure you get it on that good inside. And while I'm using this to stick that down, I'm actually gonna be pulling some of that other part of that napkin from that we just glued down to make sure it's stuck down good as well. Just pushing it right into that little crevice to make sure that you don't have any bubbles that bubble up. And we just thought of another hack. Any kind of card you have, you can use that to push that down really good in those corners. And look at that. Look at that. A perfect seal. Now this corner doesn't seem to be sticking very well, but that's okay. We can always go back through. Now this side looks like it's going to be a little long. I'm just going to go ahead and cut it. And I'm going to make sure I put an extra good amount of Mod Podge in there since it didn't stick as well like we saw before. I'm going to grab that card and I'm going to start from the bottom and just start by pushing it into that corner and keeping it kind of just pushing that pressure into that corner so that the bottom stays taut. Look at that. Perfect. On to the next. All right, we went ahead and glued down the rest of our edges off camera, and you can see we have a beautiful frame that turned out very nicely. And now, let's move on to the third and final way to customize your frame. Custom craft paper. You can find craft paper in any shade, color, design, anything. You can order mass amounts online, and it's a beautiful, cheap idea for many, many crafts. All right, for this last frame, I went ahead and sanded it down and applied a thin layer of chalk paint so that it has some of that extra grippiness on the outside so that it can apply very thin and nicely. This is that chalk paint that we used. It's just a cool color and it matched our frame pretty well. I don't know how I had a perfect color match on hand, but we did. Okay, now let's get into this last craft. What you're gonna need is you're gonna need Mod Podge, your frame, your crafting paper, and some scissors. Or if you don't wanna have to mess around with the Mod Podge, you can use some of our Crafter's Bond spray. It works just as well, if not a little better. All right, let's move over here so we can give it a nice spray down so we can get it nice and coated. I'm doing this over a parchment paper because I don't want to get too much glue on my counter, but if you'd like to, that's up to you. I'm going to just give a nice spritz all around the edges. And with that, I'm going to make sure that my crafting paper is flipped over, and you're going to grab this, move it over here, flip up your craft paper, and you're just going to want to stick it at an even spot in the middle. And look at that. It's already stuck. Okay. Now, just like the last ones, you're going to cut corner to corner. This is probably one of the most constant steps you'll use in crafting. Corner to corner is an amazing way for folding. Exactly need to be on the corners. If yours a little like mine and it's not exactly lined up, just do the best you can. Okay. Now, just like before, I'm going to make sure that this sticks up as much as I'd like it to. I'm going to cut a little bit off the edges. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and fold all 4 of our corners like we've been doing, and I'll meet you back here at the end. All right, now that we've finished wrapping all of our frames and inserts, let's go over all the cute work that we have done. Our last frame that we did was from craft paper and an old frame. Now we have this beautiful, vibey, spruced up frame that I would just love to put in my room. All right, our second to last one that we did was with the napkin. If you look, all that beautiful pattern transferred right onto there, and it's completely dry and it feels pretty durable to me. Back to our example, this is one that I've done on my own, and this is what this would look like as a filler for inside your frame. And back to our first one with the fabric and the distressing, we have our beautiful rustic frame with our fabric insert. I love how all of these frames came out, and I know that this is going to be a craft that I am definitely going to be doing in my free time. I hope you all enjoyed learning some crafts with me in my crafting corner, and I hope to see you again someday. Have a great